Video games are great. The industry who make them are huge. All the big guys, Nintendo, Capcom, Sega and Konami all made it big because they had a mascot to help them on their way. Because they had such strong and appealing characters, it meant that other small developers wanted to make games with them. These companies mostly come from China and Russia, but these game companies don't exactly do it legally. They rip them off and create mostly shoddy, unofficial, illegal, poor quality games and normally sell them at black markets. These games are called bootleg games. And this is where my new series starts, Mascots Bootlegged. Before we start, I'm going to explain what a pirate original of a bootlegged game is. For a game to qualify for a pirate original, it needs to infringe on someone else's copyright material, such as copyrighted music, sprites, names, engines, or they can even be ROM hacks of existing games, which also qualifies. They normally come from places where the consoles the games are made for aren't sold at. This gives the companies a better chance of hiding away. They are also almost always poor quality. So in this pilot of the new series of the first section of bootleg games we are looking at are Bootleg Mario Games. So, what are we waiting for? Let's start! First up is an interesting fighting game called Kart Fighter, developed by a company called Hummer Team and published by GD Industry Co. Fighting are the most common pirated game genre because of the fact they are very easy to produce. Kart Fighter was originally released in 1993 and then re-released in as late as 2000 by an unknown Argentinian company. Kart Fighter is one of the more well-known bootlegs because of its funny style of beating up all the characters from the SNES Mario Kart. Each character has their own set of moves, and gameplay is somewhat enjoyable and surprisingly addicting, although there is very clunky AI in this game. For example, CPUs can perform and spam Hadoukens whenever they want, and can even have more than one on the screen at the same time, whilst humans can only perform one every 5 seconds. The sprites are pretty accurate, except for Bowser, who looks more stupid than ferocious. He is all plump and fat. Also, don't bother playing as Luigi, since a human can only do one of his special moves. The characters' names are all messed up in translations. Mario is Mari, Koopa is Noko Noko, Bowser is Koopa, and Toad is Kinopio. I don't know if this was done to kind of avoid copyright issues, but it is strange. If you're a super fusspot, romhacking.net have made a name correction patch. Also, if you were expecting a challenging fighter, who the heck are you? The entire game is a button masher, and I've beaten it using absolutely no special moves. Yep, I just abused the system. Even though there are plenty of flaws with Kart Fighter, it is fun because it is very amusing to see the Plumber brothers kicking each other to death. That's why this game is more well known than the others. In fact, Kart Fighter is often considered to be the best pirate original bootleg of all time. I'm sure that's an honour Hummer Team is very pleased of. After the amusing Kart Fighter, we have now got something a little more obscure. Super Mario World on the SNES is a very well-known game, but do you know it has a fourth cousin twice removed on the NES? Yep, that's right. In as late as 1995, Hummer Team made a D-make of Super Mario World. The game was published by a company called JY Company. If you don't know, a D-make is when a game is remade from a less advanced console to what it was originally made on. Super Mario World on the NES was most likely sold in Taiwan and Eastern Europe. So, let's take a look at the game, and what the heck is this? Just take a listen to this horrible music. That, my friends, is the Hummer Team V3 sound engine not at its personal best. Although they managed to recreate the levels of the SNES version very well, the physics are supernatural. Mario runs uphill faster than when he runs downhill. Oh my gosh, Mario's a freaking alien. It's me, alien to kill. Plus, you know in the very well-known SNES version you could actually slide down hills? Look what happens when you try this in the NES bootleg version. Great, just great. Goodness, what is this? Saturday Night Fever? Shut up. Well, there's Super Mario Land on the NES. It's decent, the controls are very bad, and the physics are bad, and it is glitchy at times. It's nowhere near as good as the SNES original, but since it was quite a hard task to do, I'll give Hummer and JY a pass on this one. Okay, so the next one just cracks me up. Up next is the one, the only, Super Mario Kart Rider for the NES. Yeah. That's a cool name. Immediately from this game's title screen, I have so many questions. Why does it say Kart Rider when there's a picture of the motorbike on the screen? Turns out this is actually a hack of a game on the Famicom that was never released outside Japan called Top Rider, except the bike riders are changed to all the Mario characters. And yes, there's absolutely no karts in this game. What were you thinking? The actual game itself is not bad. It should have been released outside of North America and Europe, but since this bootleg is a hack, I've got nothing else to say about it. Next up, we have a Mario bootleg we don't know who developed, although they've been very cheeky and claimed to be Nintendo. This game is called Super Mario 4 for the Game Boy. It's actually yet another hack. This time it's a hack of a Game Boy game called Crayon Shin-Chan 4 by Bandai. I've got to say, just because the hackers claim they were Nintendo, it makes the game feel official. The game it's a hack of is similar to Mario anyways. Surprisingly, the hacker changed a lot from the original game. Usually ROM hack pirates just changed the main sprite in the game. This hacker changed the level layout and order as well, and I really don't see why he even bothered. Hang on. Just play that back. Just look at the animation where Mario jumps. What's he on steroids? So yeah, Super Mario 4 can often be found on multi-carts, but it's very hard to find on its own. The game itself, it's not bad, and I think it's worth hunting down. Next up, we have a really weird, bizarre port of Sonic the Hedgehog by Hummer Team. Called Somari for the NES. It's a Sonic game with Mario instead of the hyperactive blue, possibly on drug Speed Freak. Unfortunately, it didn't survive the transfer from Mega Drive to NES very well. The game is very shoddily programmed and laid out. Just look at how cheaply I take these hits. Brrr. The game does accurately resemble Sonic the Hedgehog, although it's definitely not Hummer's best work. But Mario does have an epic AFK pose. Look at him. Oh yeah, I meant to be defeating Dr. Robotnik. He can wait. Don't blame him. He's probably signalling you and trying to say, Turn it off now! Stop playing this garbage, you moron! So Mari, it isn't as good as it may sound. Plus, every time you go around a loop, one ring is always glitched and you can never get it. Next we have a hack of a well-known Famicom game called Hammering Harry, except it's now called Super Mario Bros. Marley Bros. Well done lads. The only difference between the two are the sprites, and it's all in Chinese. The game is pretty generic, but still pretty fun. It feels good smashing swarms of enemies to death over and over. I feel like Mario has gone insane and has now started a huge murder spree session. Up Up next, we have an exact, direct port of the original Super Mario Bros. On the NES by a company called Matrix. This one is pretty impressive. As far as I know, all the levels are exactly the same as the original. Every hidden block, every special zone. Matrix even included the Minus World. Except the Minus World is a different area. I think the pirates tried really very hard with this one, and I actually managed to squeeze fun out of it. Plus, it blows my mind that this game was released in as late as 2010. In fact, old systems are currently very popular in third world countries that didn't experience it when it first came out. Good job, Matrix. But when there's companies like Matrix, there will always be others that aren't quite as devoted. The company I'm talking about next is Zemina, with a Mario bootleg for the SG-1000, or maybe you know it as the Sega Master System. And this is what you call garbage at the bottom of the bin. First of all, let's talk about Zemina. Zemina was a South Korean company that made bootleg clones of popular games, and made them for systems that they didn't come out on. They mostly called them by their original name, but did rarely call them different names. And when they cloned Super Mario Bros., this is what it became: Superboy. They obviously just came up with this off the top of their heads, didn't they? I really don't know where to start. Oh yeah, this game is extremely hard. Do you know why? It's a challenge to even start the game. The game calls start space, and if you press start at the title screen, nothing will probably happen. If you press it too much, you'll crash the game. I don't know when you have to press start. Is it at some short time radius? A blaring beep will be the only thing you hear if you don't press it at the right time. When you do start the game, you'll notice that you shouldn't have. The music is a buggy, slow imitation of the original theme song. It sometimes even glitches out if you jump too much. Also, it turns out that simple side-scrolling was too much work for the pirates. When you move, let's call him Boy, it moves in confusing jerks. It makes everything so difficult and horrible. This is the 8-bit Master System right here. The NES, the Sega Master System's main competitor, could handle side-scrolling perfectly, and the NES isn't as advanced as the Master System. Even the disadvantaged, unimpressive Atari 7800 could handle side-scrolling smoothly. How did they fail so hardcore? Oh yeah, you know in pretty much every single game in the world it has a pause option when you can stop the game and then restart again if you press the button again? In Superboy, if you press pause, it crashes the game. Zemina made a ton of Mario bootlegs under their Superboy ripoff. I'm not going to cover any more of them in this video, but it's more than likely I'll revisit Bootleg Mario Games in another episode of Mascots Bootlegged. Well, as we finally come to an end of our first Mascots Bootlegged episode, there is still one more game I want to talk about. You thought the NES Super Mario World or Superboy were bad? Well, take a look at this. A Russian Mario bootleg for the Sega Mega Drive, which for doing some research on Google Translate, literally translates to Mario 3 Around the Council. What? So, after watching a cutscene all in Russian, it then comes to the title screen. Pressing start then leads you to... this. Looks like Mario has changed citizenship to Egyptian. So, after starting, you notice that the controls are incredibly stiff. Although not as bad control as Superboy, it's still pretty mental. Also, when you die, you hear this lovely jingle. Brilliance. Whenever you fall down a hole in this game, you hear poor Mario let out an almighty scream. Rest in peace, Mario. Okay, back to business. Do you like glitches? Well, this game is for you. Let's start off with, if you break a brick block in this game, the music stops. it sometimes just plays a blaring beep for hours, or until you die. I can kind of get where they're coming from with Mario 3 around the council, because I'm guessing that all the game levels are in different places in the world. Wow, there is blatant copies of well-known Mario songs for music. And the pirates made some of their own tunes, but their own tunes are absolute garbage. This is easily one of the worst games I've ever played. Why does it freaking involve the council? Oh yeah, and the game over screen is just horrible. Look at all that blood and the unattended cap.
Soaked in the bloody and red remains of the mustache plumber. Okay, yeah, this is getting old now. And all this rubbish effects. Okay, bye.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching the pilot of my new show, Mascots Bootlegged. Because of this being the pilot, a very special episode, it also aired on my friend Mr. Riddler's channel to expand the audience. So if you're new to my channel and you like what you've seen here, then I would encourage you to subscribe, because that helps a lot. It would be really good if you did like what you see here, but I don't really care, you know. I mean, I don't get money from YouTube, I just do all this for fun at the moment. If you want, you can check out my gameplay and commentaries. I do Let's Plays, I do Roblox, Don't Starve, lots more. I also do DJing on my other channel. I make electronic songs, and I also do quite a few other stuff on there. So, yeah, bye guys. Well, about a week ago I uploaded the pilot of Mascots Bootlegged, when I talked about Bootleg Mario Games, and surprisingly, the views and feedback was very good. It exceeded my usual average. I even gained a new subscriber from it. Thanks, Adam. So, I decided to sit down and do another episode, except this time we are looking at none other than Bootleg Aladdin Games. That's right, definitely one of my favourite Disney classics. But what I love most about Aladdin was the magnificent soundtrack. Some of you may be aware of the free Aladdin games on the NES, Mega Drive and SNES. The NES version isn't as well known as the others, but the NES version is actually a port of the Mega Drive version, both put out by Virgin. The soundtrack in those two is not bad, but the excellent Capcom SNES version has a superb collection of songs. Since the Aladdin soundtrack is so good, I'm going to look for sound quality in the bootleg games. So, enough yabbering, let's start. First up is a pirate remake of the SNES Aladdin for the Famicom and NES by HummerTeam. And starting with this is certainly a positive way to start the episode, since this game is often considered to be
The best pirate original ever made.
And I'm pretty sure it deserves this title. The port is very well copied from the SNES original. The controls are almost perfect. It's very responsive. The only problem with them is the confusing button choices. The B button is jump, and A is to do the attacking. Any veteran NES player would expect this the other way round, but that's just a little nitpick. All the levels are ported exceptionally well. There are a few things Hammer left out, but I think this is only because the NES was not capable of doing everything the SNES version could. The music is fine, nothing special, but it does have a nice catchy jingle to it. All in all, this is an extremely well done remake, and although it may have some competition for the best pirate original, it certainly is miles better than the official NES Aladdin in my opinion. Next we have a pirate hack for the Famicom and NES called Aladdin 3 by an unknown hacker. If you are an NES collector, this one may seem familiar to you. That's because it's a hack of Magic Carpet 1001, a shooter found on the Caltron 6-in-1, an unlicensed multicart of original games. The only thing the hack changes is the title screen and slows the speed of the genie guy down. And the P icons don't do anything. Why? It only makes the game worse. I actually quite liked Magic Carpet 1001. The music already had an Arabian feel to it. I could have been easily mistaken for Aladdin music. But since this is a hack, the original music wasn't designed to be for an Aladdin game, which means that it doesn't have any relation to the original Aladdin soundtrack. This means that the hack doesn't really add anything, and since it's just a hack, I'm going to leave it here. Next we have yet another hack called Aladdin Return of Jafar. Yet again, this hacker is also unknown. This time, it's a hack of a Famicom game called Lord of King by Jellicoe. Or maybe you know it as Astyanax, which I think is how it's pronounced, which was its name when it was released on the NES. I'm assuming this game is meant to take place after the movie, hence the name Return of Jafar. The only differences between this and the original are the main sprites that have been changed to the Aladdin characters, with Aladdin as the main protagonist that you control, and the cutscene pictures are changed. The actual game itself is very hard. It is enjoyable as well. I would recommend you check it out, and it's pretty hilarious to see Aladdin with an axe slicing his enemies to death. Yeah, that certainly doesn't look like Agrabah Market to me. Yet again, with this being a hack, the original music is left in, so it has no relation to the Aladdin music. So I can't see anything really about this game's music. Next we have a very strange one. This is a hack of the Hummer Team Aladdin pirate, which we reviewed a few minutes ago at the start, except they have hacked the title screen to call it Aladdin 4. Weird. The music is also glitchy. Sometimes it just stops during a level. Sometimes that silence makes me drink my tea with a proud sense of joy in my heart. Geez, what am I saying? There's nothing special about this one. It's just another oddity to join the pile. Well, as we yet again come to the end of the episode, I've saved the worst for last. Next up, we have Aladdin 2 for the NES. There really is no point for this game to exist. It's a port of the Mega Drive Aladdin, but there was already an official NES port of that game. So why did this need to be created? Yes, exactly. Why? The game was created by a Chinese pirate developer called Chengdu Taijing Dadong Co. Cool name, guys. And that's the only thing cool about this game, because this game is absolutely terrible. Let's start off with two very important things in a game: view and controls. This game fails on both. The controls are awful. Aladdin slips and slides everywhere. He keeps going for a bit if you stop moving. It makes any sort of movement or combat extremely hard straight away. Thankfully, the button choices are what you expect from the NES. The only thing that can be a pain is that you press select to throw apples. I would prefer it if you could press select to switch weapons to apples, but that's just a nitpick. The hit detection also sucks. You can't run into apples to pick them up. You have to stand still, then jump up to get them. But it's okay, because every time you do this, you feel happy because you are willingly making the pirates' lives easier. Right? I really don't have a technique down for combat. The controls are so clunky, it means that whenever I see an enemy, I'm just like, oh geez, there's a bad guy, and start flinging my sword around everywhere. The jumping mechanics fail as well. You can't shift Aladdin around when you jump. He just gradually falls in one direction. No pun involving stupid wimpy boy bands intended. Now, onto the camera. You probably guessed that this sucked as well. If you move just the tiniest bit to either the left or right, it moves the camera right to the end of the screen. It makes keeping track of yourself or enemies on the screen a real chore. I like how they put all the levels to select on the menu. They just knew this game was so bad, it was virtually unbeatable. Honestly, I've come to this point at Agrabah Market, the very first level of the game, where I try to make this jump, but I just keep on missing it. Come on! There are full playthroughs of this game on YouTube, so I guess it is possible, but still, could they just ease the difficulty just a bit? The music is, well, mediocre. The only track which is similar to the movie track is Agrabah Market. The rest, after listening for a while, you can hear the similarities to the movie equivalents, but they are quite vague. Last episode, I said that Mario 3 Around the Council was one of the worst games I've ever played. But this is worse than that. I can't tell you anymore how bad this game is, so I'm just going to sum up the top 5, well, kind of top 5, worst and quite funny moments I've had with this game. Funny moment number 1. On the level Sultan's Dungeon. By the way, that grammar is appalling. At the start there were some swinging wrecking balls that have hilariously bad perspective. Oh dearie dear. What the heck is going on? Seriously, they look like they're throwing a fit. Funny moment number 2. In this Aladdin bootleg, all the enemies are aliens. Green aliens, chucking bananas at you. Honestly, it's not like the NES and Famicom couldn't access basic skin colours. Look at the other games we've had today. Every single one of them had normally coloured skins and sprites. Funny moment number 3. When Aladdin gets hurt, he does the hamster dance. Maybe. Funny moment number 4. On the level Cave of Wonders, at the start you can find this wonderful, thing. Oh my gosh, this game! Honestly, what is this? Jeez. Funny moment number 5. This one's pretty scary. If you die enough, you will see the most disturbing picture you have ever seen in your life. Oh, that's so scary. Oh man, I'm trying hard to keep a straight face here. This game is just so despicably bad. And don't take my word for it. Go download the ROM. I've put the download in the description for all of the games seen in this episode. Do I wish to continue? No, I absolutely do not. This game doesn't even need to exist. The official NES Aladdin Mega Drive port is miles better than this. Well, I think I'm just about done with the second episode of Mascots Bootlegged. Anyway, this is Finizer signing out. Bye! Hey guys, Finizer here. I just wanted to thank first all the people who gave me such great support on the pilot episode. I never thought I would get just that little amount of support, especially from Adam. Thanks, man. You've been really helpful. And the other guy, I forgot his name, who requested Sonic Bootleg. So it's almost certain that next episode of Mascots Bootlegged will be on Bootleg Sonic Games. Also, I'd quite like I'd really appreciate it if you checked out my other channel, which is simply titled Finizer, where I do just started doing animations on there with like MS Paint. Yeah, I know, MS Paint, but I know it's kind of pathetic. I know, but yeah, MS Paint isn't the best, but still, I would quite like you to check them out. And I also make songs. I produce electronic music there. Also, I've put all the songs, games, and ROM downloads that were used in this video in the description. But I think that's all, guys. Bye. Wow, another Mascots Bootlegged episode passed and more positive feedback. Can't thank you guys enough. Anyway, in episode 3 of Mascots Bootlegged, we are doing a request from 3 people. Matthew, Akash, and Panda Bluesmuck Player have all requested Bootleg Sonic Games. And you better get comfortable, because this is going to be a long one. So, let's start. Okay, so first up is a pirate port of the original Sega Mega Drive Sonic the Hedgehog game, which was probably made by Hummer Team, except it's nowhere near as good. The controls and physics are both really stubborn and stiff. The jumping and runs just make Sonic go out of control. Sometimes it's virtually impossible to go up slopes. Plus, look at this animation when Sonic runs up them. He isn't exactly running up them, but running into them, which somehow propels him upwards. Plus, Sonic is really hard to tame. He just doesn't stop. It's really hard to explain. You can't just keep him still. It feels like he's going to start moving and skidding around at any moment. The game's also really inaccurate to the Sonic franchise. You begin the game on Spring Yard Zone, but any Sonic veteran would know that Sonic games always start on Green Hill Zone. Hummer Team really should have noticed this when making the port. It most likely is Hummer Team who made this game, since it feels and plays exactly like Somari, which is definitely by them. Even the intro music is the same as Somari's. Anyway, this one's alright. It's of course nowhere near as good as the original, but there is fun to be found in this game. Next up is a hack called again, simply Sonic the Hedgehog. The game it's a hack of is Speedy Gonzales Los Gatos Bandidos by Sunsoft, and this game is for the Super Nintendo. We actually do know the hackers of this one. It was hacked by a Peruvian company called Twin Eagles Group and published by JY Company. The only difference is that the main sprites have been changed, including the main character changed to Sonic. All the enemies are what they originally were. With this being a hack, Sonic doesn't move and control like he normally would. There is no spin dash in this game. You really can only jump and walk in this game. and Sonic will gradually pick up speed. The storyline is also weird. You are saving Mario from captivity, which is quite strange since Mario and Sonic would never appear in a game together until Wii and GameCube times. The original game was like Sonic in the first place, and it's pretty good actually. You should try this one out, but since this is a hack, I think I'm done with this one. Next we have yet another hack. This one's pretty bizarre. It's just called Sonic by an unknown hacker. Man, these names are so artistic. This one is actually a hack of Adventure Island for the NES. That run is so pathetic, yet so brilliant. What's quite interesting about this is that the enemy sprites have been altered, as well as the main character. No. Does that snail have a Dr. Eggman face on its shell? Okay, this is the best game ever. Okay, I think I'm just about done with this one. This hack is just plain mental, honestly. Next, we have an interesting one called Super Mario and Sonic 2, and Sonic is spelt with a K. So, let's look at the intro. What? Excuse me? You showed me a Mario and Sonic title screen, then you go to what looks like a Chip and Dale game? What? What is this? Okay, so the hackers were too lazy to even remove the original title screen. So instead, they just removed the copyright labels and parts of the brand name to make it read Hi and Owl. Wow, those dudes sound so cool. Why do pirates do that? It's not like you're making it legal. You can still easily be sued. This hack is about as basic as it gets. The only thing they changed are the main sprites. While Sonic's sprite is original, Mario's is ripped from Super Mario Bros. 3. But that's it. All the enemies are the originals. The game itself is alright, I guess? But yeah. Next. Next up is a little hack called Sonic & Knuckles 5. The intro music on this is definitely a lot better than the Hummer Sonic the Hedgehog bootleg and Somari. But if you start the game, you'll realise that the game is exactly the same to the Hummer Sonic the Hedgehog bootleg. Oh! Plus, it shouldn't have the word Knuckles in the title, since Knuckles isn't even in the game. Oh jeez, why am I still playing? This is ridiculous. Next, please. Next up is a very unusual bootleg Sonic game called Sonic Adventure 7 for the Game Boy Color by a Chinese company called Yong. This one is actually a hack of a previous Yong game called Sonic 3D Blast 5, with the difference being that the levels, enemies and music have been rearranged. Yong actually made a total of 25 games that were all hacks of, or hacks of existing hacks, of Sonic 3D Blast 5. Talking about flogging a dead horse. Anyway, back to Sonic Adventure 7. First of all, what's with the number 7? There has only ever been 2 official Sonic Adventures, so why did they skip from 2 to 7? Whatever. So, let's look at this game's intro. Whoa! Wasn't that so deep? Oh, let's just get on with it. So, when you start the game, you will then unfortunately realise that this is awful! See what I did there? Yeah. First, the controls. They're as stiff as heck. There's a great deal of input lag on your every move, and that gets annoying really quickly. The music is also petrifying. Level 1's music is alright, I guess. But the others are all rubbish. What's also stupid is that when you do a spin dash and hit an enemy, it doesn't kill them. In fact, it just damages you. Jeez, I need to stop referencing pop culture. Ugh, man, this game is sucking tons so far. And because of there being no proper spin dash, it means that you can't roll into enemies. Yes, that's right. You can't roll into enemies in a Sonic game. So you can only jump on them. I suppose this is bearable, but I want to play a Sonic game, not some Mario rip-off. Fortunately, this game is very short. That's one plus. At least I can be ridden of this monstrosity quickly. Next up is a hack of a previous bootleg pirate port of the original Super Mario Bros. For the Mega Drive, called Sonic Jam 6. The only difference between the two is that Mario has been changed to a Sonic sprite. Pretty basic stuff. Even Mario's face has been left in at some parts. What's quite strange about this is that when you start the game, you are coloured red, and then you need to pick up a mushroom to become blue. This game's actually not a bad pirate port. The controls are okay. The jumps can be a bit stiff and unpredictable. A lot of the time I felt like I have no control over Sonic. This is, although maybe a bit of a pointless hack, it can be quite fun and interesting at times. Next we have a hack of another Speedy Gonzales game. This time it's a hack of Speedy Gonzales for the Game Boy, called Sonic 6. Sonic 6 was released in as late as 1998 for the original Game Boy by a company called Sonic World. Guess they're a bunch of Sonic Team wannabes. This hack is really badly programmed. Sometimes levels just glitch out randomly due to errors with the hacking. The original game itself was pretty bad in the first place. There's no real reason for trying to hunt this one down. The game really isn't very enjoyable. There are many other pirate games that are better than this one. Next we have another flippin' hack. Geez, how many Sonic hacks are there? This one is actually for the Sega Master System. It's called Sonic Boy in Monsterland. Well, that's what the ROM's called. When you get to the title screen, you will find that this was again, like Super Mario and Sonic was, created by very lazy pirates. They didn't bother editing the original title screen at all. So yeah, this is a hack of a game called Wonder Boy in Monsterland, a side-scroller with RPG elements. Quite a clever little game actually. So yeah, the usual pirate hack. Only the main character has been changed to Sonic. Sonic's animation is actually really weird. When he walks, his arms don't move. He kind of looks like one of those Victorian ladies holding up the dress while he walks. Except it's an imaginary dress. At least he made an effort. That's all there is to this one really. Not a bad game on a whole, but a generic hack nonetheless. Well, yet again, the final game I've saved is of course the one I think is the worst. Even the name of this one makes me gag. The final game we are looking at today is Sonic 3D Blast 5. Oh goodness me, this game. So, this pirate is obviously based off the Sonic 3D Blast series. It even rips maps and certain pictures from the official Sonic 3D Blast games. But this game doesn't have any element of 3D included. It's actually a 2D platformer by Yong. You know, those guys who made Sonic Adventure 7. This game is actually the original game that Sonic Adventure 7 is a hack of. So, enough of that little history lesson there. It's time for me to show you this horrible game. From the game's intro, you know the quality of this game. The intro is just a slideshow of ripped Sonic 3D Blast pictures with absolutely awful music to accompany it. Just listen to this. am disturbed. The copy of this original track is appalling. The game has got to have the worst collection of music ever in history. Yeah, that's right, collection. There's more of it to come. So, level 1, Green Hill Zone. 1 act apparently. That's a shame. I've always wanted 2 of them. Ha 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 ha, that's a bad joke. So, this game is basically just Sonic Adventure 7, but even worse. All the control mechanics are just the same. The levels have just been rearranged, same lousy input lag, same stiff jumps, same poor hit detection. There's also some extra rubbish though. Sometimes enemies just disappear. That's right, out of thin air. Sometimes I'm just walking along, past an enemy, walk back, then bam, he's gone. A really frustrating thing about this game is Sonic's walking and running pattern. The way the mechanics work is that after walking for a few seconds, Sonic will then automatically go into a sprint. This is the same for Sonic Adventure 7, since they're both virtually the same game. This walking mechanic was such a poor decision. This is because sometimes I'm walking up to somewhere to do a jump, and just before I need to press A, Sonic goes into the sprint mode and it messes up all my timing. Now, you guys probably all thought that this was as worse as it can get. Well, maybe. But I still haven't come to the absolute worst thing about this game, which is the music. The music in this game is, I think, the most putrid, vile, and disgusting music ever in a video game. Let me just show you some snippets. Disclaimer, Finizer is not held responsible for any serious damage to ears caused by this video. No! 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 Make it stop! My ears! Gah! Hi guys, I'd like to thank you all again for watching the latest episode of Mascots Bootlegged, Bootleg Sonic Games. Great, yet again, amazing support. Thank you everyone. I know it's getting a bit tedious every episode, but still, although it's cheesy, I really do want to thank you guys. Especially Panda Blues McPlayer, who, without him, I wouldn't have had many of the games for this episode, since a lot of them were suggestions from him, and he told me where to get them. So yeah, he's been really helpful. Sorry I couldn't include all of your suggestions, but I will try to do like little filler reviews with the other ones you suggested. So yeah, thanks a lot for that, Panda Blues McPlayer. But of course, special thanks to everyone really for helping out, and people who suggested it, all my subscribers. There's a new episode of the FinizerGaming show, which should be coming out soon. Songs that are used in this episode are in the description. The ROMs of all the games that I used in the description. But for now, this is Finizer. Bye guys. Well, here we are again for yet another Mascots Bootlegged episode. Although I've said it a ton of times, thank you all again for the tremendous amount of support. I really can't thank you guys enough, and I actually mean that. Anyway, enough of that boring stuff. Today we are looking at bootleg Donkey Kong games, and Donkey Kong bootlegs have been proven hard to find. I've searched all around for good bootleg Donkey Kong material, and I haven't got much, but I think it's enough. But hey, at least I found something, so we might as well get on with the episode. of all, like all other Mascots Bootlegged episodes, we are starting with a Hummer Team game. This one is Donkey Kong Country 4 for the Famicom, developed by Hummer Team and published by JY Company. This game is a demake of Donkey Kong Country for the SNES, and yet again, this game has lived up to the usual Hummer Team standard of good quality pirate originals. One of the first things you notice when you play this game are the graphics. They're superb. Just look at this animation and scenery. That challenges some official NES games. The controls are mostly fine, except there's a tiny bit of sluggishness when you change direction, but just barely anything. There's also some other flaws as well. You often lose momentum when you jump for no reason, which can be very annoying. There's also an unnecessary high amount of lives, 25 to be exact. Do you really need that much? This game also shows off the Hummer V3 sound engine very well. Although the distinctive sound isn't everyone's cup of tea, I've really come to like it. Here's a snippet. Everything has been very well copied from the SNES original. Of course, with this being on a less advanced system, there are certain downgrades. An example of this is that the sprites are smaller than the originals due to the Famicom sprite limit. This can also cause some minor flickering as well. There is also a little and quite fun Easter egg in this game. When you're at the title screen, if you press up, down, left, right, the screen will transition to the JY Company logo. This Easter egg can be found in almost all the JY Company published games, including the Super Mario World Hummer bootleg for the Famicom. Their logo actually looks really odd. Is it a sun? Anyway, all in all, Donkey Kong Country 4 is a very enjoyable pirate, another high quality Hummer Team game, and although there are definitely some problems, I strongly recommend you check this one out. Second up, we have a pirate original, which we don't know who it was made by, called Super Donkey Kong 99 for the Sega Mega Drive. Yeah, that's right, apparently this is the 99th installment in the series. A lot of the material in this game is ripped directly from the official Donkey Kong Country. Donkey Kong's sprite is ripped, and all the enemy sprites are also ripped. Kind of lazy actually. Donkey Kong's animation is also very choppy. It's only a few frames repeated over and over. The button choices are fine, thankfully. They're what you expect. A is for picking up barrels, B for running, and C for jumping. There's no roll attack in this game though, sadly. The controls are okay. It's mostly solid, but there is room for improvement. Some of the hit detection is questionable. Sometimes you jump on an enemy expecting to kill them, but instead they just damage you. What's very odd with this game is that some of the level audio is ripped from tracks from Super Mario All-Stars and Streets of Rage. So pretty much everything in this game is ripped from somewhere. Even the sound when you jump out a barrel is ripped from a game called High Seas Havoc, which shows the makers are pretty lazy people. Plus, Diddy Kong isn't playable.
What?
So that's pretty much Super Donkey Kong 99. A pretty bad game if you ask me. It's boring, lazily made, and certainly not the best. Next up, we have a pirate port of the Game Boy game Donkey Kong Land. This pirate is called Super Donkey Kong for the Famicom. It is developed by a Chinese pirate company called Yihaoyang and published by Hosokan Electronics. And would you guess what? This game actually has a copyright notice at the start. This program contains proprietary information which is protected by copyright. No part of this program may be copied, reproduced, or translated without the prior written consent. Well, how ironic, since they copied the Donkey Kong brand name to make this game. Naughty, naughty. All in all, this one's also very poorly made. The controls are so painful, they are very sluggish. I can also feel a tiny bit of input lag, which I detest now after playing Sonic 3D Blast 5. Ugh. The music's pretty boring as well, but at least it isn't painful to the ears. The roll needs improvement as well. You sort of roll in short bursts, and I've been hit a lot while I'm doing the roll, which certainly shouldn't happen. You also don't really move very fluidly. It feels like it's very choppy, which doesn't help. One thing I really don't like with this is that when you pause, the music carries on. I hate this on every game it's used in. The whole point of pausing is to stop all action. What if you need to stop to eat or something? One very big downfall with this game is the camera. It relies on being babysat all the time, and it jolts around from even the smallest of movements. This has cost me many lost lives. What on earth? Look, the clouds! They're monkey faces! I do not remember that in the original at all. Hao Yang were also a bit lazy as well. The game only has 5 levels from the original, each repeated twice, which isn't very good. Like Super Donkey Kong 99, many of the graphics have been ripped. Many sprites, including Donkey and Diddy's, which have been ripped from Donkey Kong Land. But at least they are both here, which has not been a priority with most of the pirates seen in this episode so far. Plus, it's not like Hao Yang didn't rip virtually everything, unlike Super Donkey Kong 99's makers did. On a whole, this game is alright, I suppose, for a pirate at least. Maybe fun could be found in this one if you're relatively ambitious. Second to last today, we have Super Donkey Kong 2. This pirate is a remake of the SNES Donkey Kong Country 2, probably released in 1997, since this date is what's placed on most of the cartridges with the game in them. This game has no company relation to the previous Super Donkey Kong pirate, since this one could actually be developed by a team of ex-Saturn developers. But we do know the publishers of this game. It's published by a company called simply NT. That's right, no joke, just NT. They have actually published some Hummer Team and Hao Yang games in the past though. I feel like I should just point out that this was actually the first pirated game I ever came across, and it was the one that introduced me to this strange world of bootleg games. But that's enough about the game's history. Let's actually start to play it. As soon as you start, you can see that this is a lot better than Hao Yang's Super Donkey Kong. The graphics are all a lot more detailed. In my opinion, the graphics of that ship is rivaling Hummer Team's Donkey Kong Country 4 graphics, and the moving scene in the background is also a really nice touch. The controls and movement are both done well in this one. They are very responsive, except that sometimes there's a tiny bit of lag when you're falling from a jump. The camera's also a lot more reliable than its unrelated prequel. It sticks in one place of the screen as you progress through the levels. The hit detection is often off by quite a bit. Sometimes I jump on an enemy in what looks like a perfectly valid spot, then ends up with me dead. One cool thing with this game is that when you finish a level, Diddy starts doing his epic dance like he does in the original. Oh yeah, Diddy Kong in the house. Oh yeah, yay. Okay, moving on. One of the main bad things about this game is the play value. The game is way too short. There's only 3 levels. 3! But each of them I found pretty fun. They are all either remakes of or based on levels from Donkey Kong Country 2. Even though there are definitely some problems, they really did try with this one, and they did a pretty good job of making everything from scratch. I think this one's probably the second best game we have seen today. Next! Well, as we come to the end, once again, in general Mascots Bootleg fashion, I've saved the worst for last. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring you Super Donkey Kong Xiang Zhao Xuan, a pirate remake of Donkey Kong Country for the Famicom. No, I'm not joking, that's his actual freaking name. Just try and guess what Xiang Zhao Xuan, whatever it is, actually means though. Okay, should I tell you? Banana boat. Yep. Even though, from what I can recall, there are absolutely no banana-themed boats in any of the gameplay. Now, as soon as I started playing this, it played a lot like Aladdin 2. I just had the same stiffness and shoddy programming. And do you know why? It's said to be made by the same company. Yes, that's right. We don't know for sure, but this game is said to be published by a company called Lang Yai Productions, whatever, and developed by our good friends, Chengdu Taijing Dadong Computer Co. Yay! Let's just get this over with. So, when we start, we are treated to a lovely seizure-inducing title screen with poorly drawn Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong characters. and music which makes no sense to the actual theme of the game. You can then proceed to a character select, and then go on to this complete joke. I don't know where to start, since there's so many areas with this game. Whatever, I'm just going to start with Donkey Kong's sprite. It's super derpy. I'll give them points for creating it from scratch, and it is very unique, but it just constantly acts like he's some brain-dead zombie or puppet. He just looks so stupid. Plus, he smiles. He never stops, ever. When he's walking, he smiles. When he gets hit, he smiles. And when he's rolling, I expect he's smiling as well. Also, when you stop moving, he has a really odd AFK pose. He looks to the left and back, left and back, left and back, over and over. In fact, this sprite was seen by so many to be so derpy and unique that it actually has an obscure internet meme based off it called Donkey Kong. No joke, look it up. Donkey Kong is pretty much the Ouija of Donkey Kong, but Donkey's sprite is nothing compared to Diddy's. Look at that. What is that meant to be? He looks like a rat with a cap. As well as the bad sprites, the camera feels like it's slipping on ice. It's just like the Aladdin 2 one, but maybe a tiny improvement. At least now it doesn't jerk immediately if you move in a certain direction, but it still just loses itself if you be too agile. Sometimes it can't even keep up with you. Come on, is it really that hard to create a proper working camera? But of course, this game makes up for all of that with its enemies. Oh, aren't the enemies terrifying? Ah, mini dino critter, leave this land now! If you couldn't tell, that was a joke. I was being sarcastic. The enemies suck. And just when I thought that this game could not get any worse, in comes the music. Like I said previously, the music has absolutely no relation to DKC. But not only that, the music is also disgusting. Listen to this. It sounds like some 3-year-old that's put together some tune on GarageBand. Also, they must have really ran out of ideas when they came to naming levels. Come on, the first level is Forest, which I suppose isn't too bad, but not very imaginative. Then we've got Mushroom, apparently only one, even though the map screen shows multiple. And finally, Pool. Oh jeez, that is pathetic. And guess what? After playing through this atrocious game, this is what you get for an ending. Yes! My destiny has been fulfilled! Not! In summary, this game is pretty much Aladdin 2 with Donkey and Diddy Kong slapped on top with awful controls, bad camera, derpy and annoying sprites, and many other things which make this game reek of badness. And no game, just like Aladdin 2, I do not intend to continue one bit. Hello everybody, Finizer here, and thank you everyone for watching my video. Mascots Bootlegged episode 4 now, I think, so yeah, pretty good progress actually. It's so great that you guys stick with me every week, you know, it's really consistent. I can't thank you guys enough, I don't think ever, really, for being such the great audience you are. So I don't think I'll do as a long-winded one as I did last time, so there's just 2 annotations on the screen. One will take you to last week's Mascot Bootleg, which is Bootleg Sonic Games, and the other one will take you to a new channel, which I started up, called Finizer YTPs, where I do YouTube poops, if you haven't heard already, so you can click that if you want to, but you don't have to, because I don't really care. But, so yeah, I think that's really it for this episode, guys, so goodbye. Well, hello everyone, Finizer here. Thank you for another successful Mascots Bootlegged episode and more of the great support. Yet again, thank you very much. So I've recently had quite a few requests for Bootleg Pokemon Games from Matthew, GamerGirl121 and Sonic the Sonic Fan. So, this episode we will be looking at some bootleg Pokemon games, and there sure are a lot of Pokemon bootlegs. So, let's get started. First up, we have a Pokemon bootleg called Just Pocket Monsters. This one's developed and published by DVS Electronic Co., a Taiwanese bootleg game developer. This one was probably released in the year 2000. This is supported with the numbers 2000 written on the box. Pocket Monsters was released for both SNES and Sega Mega Drive, but we're looking at the Mega Drive version today. They are both exactly the same, except the soundtracks are in different arrangement from each other. So, it all looks reasonably normal at the moment, I suppose. We've got a decent quality cutscene of Ash throwing a Pokeball, and... okay, so we've got seizure-inducing font with a mini hamster in a ball spinning around like crazy, and Pikachu saying Pikachu! So, at the title screen we can see two buttons, Start Game and Option. Option with no S on the end for some reason. It's just where you can select how many lives, difficulty and that kind of stuff. So let's go with Start Game. In the game, we can only play as one Pokemon, Pikachu. It's not your normal Pokemon game though. It's actually a platformer. So level 1 is in some forest thing. As we start to walk forward, we can see that the sprite artists were so very talented. There are some Pokemon enemies that are obviously based off official Pokemon, but then there are others like that, which don't really ring a bell. Some of the voice sampling for the enemy deaths are so hilariously bad. One cool thing about this game though is Pikachu's Thunderbolt attack, which, if used, kills any normal enemy in one hit on the screen. The jumping mechanics are way overly complicated though. You press button C to jump. Now that's fine, but unlike normal games when after pressing jump your guy will easily fly up in the air, in Pocket Monsters you need to hold the jump button down. If you are at a standstill and you let go, Pikachu shoots back to the ground. This is so poor and unrealistic whenever it's used. Also, when Pikachu lands from a jump, he makes the loudest sound known to man. Jeez, Pikachu, what have you been eating? These mechanics do allow very entertaining things like this to happen though. Yay! Another thing that bugs me about this game is its cheap difficulty. The camera gets stuck everywhere. There are absolutely no checkpoints whatsoever in any of the levels. This would be okay most of the time if they didn't make the levels so flippin' hard. In the first level of the game, first you go through this mini forest area thing, then you fight it off with this mini boss here, but it doesn't end there, oh no. You then carry on till you get to this underground area where you fight the final boss of level 1, which is an overly active Snorlax. All that for the first dang level. Although there is nowhere near the best bootleg ever, at least there is quite a bit of play value, and I suppose a Pokemon platformer wasn't really taken into thought by Nintendo at the point of this game's release. So this one is decent really. I'd hunt it down if I could be bothered. Next we have a bizarre Tetris Pokemon bootleg called Poke Tetris. This one is a hack of the excellent Tengen unlicensed Tetris, which is one of my favourite games of all time. There hasn't been many core changes in this hack from the original. The game has all been changed graphically to feature a rather tubby Pikachu during the gameplay. The music has also been changed. I think the music has been ripped from Barbie for the NES. It might just be me, but I can feel a tad bit of slippery control when moving the blocks left and right. I don't really know how this could happen when hacked from the original though. Even though there really isn't anything bad about this one, besides the original having nothing to do with Pokemon. Honestly though, if you want the best Tetris experience, I'd stick with the good old Tengen original. Next up we have Pocket Monster 2. This is the sequel to the DVS Electronics Pocket Monsters. The sequel was probably released a year after the prequel in 2001. At the moment though, we only know of a Mega Drive version. So yes, sorry SNES fans, sadly you can't play this amazing game. So the sequel actually plays almost identical to the original, except this time they've thrown in some extra stuff. The voice samples are a lot more crisp this time. And I've got to say, the levels are designed quite well. The music for level 1 is really cool and catchy. One thing I'm really impressed about is that DVS actually made it from scratch from as far as I know. But I still can't help thinking it's way too over the top and dramatic for a Pokemon platformer. Imagine if this track was played in the most emotional part of a film or something. It doesn't work. Although there are some good things about this game, there are also quite a few flaws. This time DVS got rid of the cool Thunderbolt attack. Instead now, they've replaced it with Pokeballs you can throw. Come on, that's stupid. How can you go from such a super cool move to Pokeballs? Plus, how could Pikachu get hold of Pokeballs? Shouldn't Ash be in control of them? Thinking about it, where the heck is Ash? In the first one, Ash was in the opening cutscene and a picture of him was shown before each level, but in the sequel he's nowhere to be seen. There's quite a few glitches as well. If you jump on an enemy, Pikachu can then do a second jump in mid-air. I suppose this isn't terribly a bad thing. It can be abused to death though. This is also the same if Pikachu is damaged as well. One annoying glitch is that when the Pokeballs are thrown, they move as you do. This can be annoying since it can make you miss enemies. Is that a boxing bunny? Oh yeah, I remember that one. Got that in level X. In summary, Pocket Monster 2 is a huge improvement from the original. Although there are some problems and glitches that drag it down, I guarantee you'll get some sort of enjoyment out of this game. Next we have a weird 3D Pac-Man clone Pokemon bootleg called Pokemon 2 for the Sega Mega Drive. This game and another pirate called Harry Potter, also for the Mega Drive, are both hacks of each other, although it's unknown which is the original. For some reason, all these Pokemon bootlegs are incredibly random. The game only has 3 levels. The goal is to collect enough of these moving magic balls to progress to the next level. But these levels are just crazy. Apparently, Grim Reapers, giant lizards, now all classed as Pokemon. Plus, the first level has some sort of tropical island theme song to it. The games are graphically actually pretty good. They seem pre-rendered, which is pretty advanced for a pirate, and incredibly advanced for any game of this time. If you collect a Pokeball, you become invincible and you're able to kill off enemies. So once you collect enough magic ball things to progress, you get a picture of some Pokemon, which have probably been ripped from somewhere, and it's off to the next level. Level 2 is the exact same principle, except this time it's in this temple area. For some reason in level 2, if you collect a ball, get hit or kill someone, the game starts to lag and the picture's lowered a few semitones. The last level, though, is weirdest of them all. It's set in this Arabian city, same formula like the other two, but the music's from Street Fighter?
That's so random!
All in all, Pokemon 2 isn't really a bad game. It's just weird and can get very boring after a while. Next we have a 4-in-1 Pokemon multi-cart bootleg called Pokemon 4-in-1 by Yan Cheng and published by a company called Union Bond, which sounds way too deep for a game company name. You may have seen this game in JonTron's review of Bootleg Pokemon Games, where he pointed out that all the game names are misspelt to make them sound like they're to do with the inability to swallow non-nutritious food. Yeah. So, straight from the menu I can see that the green ball over here is looking way too excited for this sort of occasion. Dude, it's a bootleg game. it's probably going to be awful. So, the first game on the agenda is Pika Click. This one is kind of like the beta version of something like Bejeweled or Candy Crush, but instead of games like Candy Crush, where you move the sweets into position, this one you just identify pre-existing pairs or triplets or whatever. It's actually very similar to a game from 2008 called Collapse, but by far the best thing out of this one is after every time you find a group of jewels, you are treated to some epic Pikachu head bobbing. Beautiful. After you complete a level, Pikachu goes ballistic, and that's pretty much it. This one's not bad at all, gameplay-wise. There's no glitches at all, but it can get very boring quickly due to the gameplay being very repetitive. Game 2 is Pika Slot. This one is a slot machine. A slot machine with Pokemon. I really don't get slot machines in video games for 3 reasons. 1, because they are sheer dumb luck, so what's the point? 2, because of it being in a video game there's no physical reward, which is the whole point of slot machines in real life. And 3, because they're freaking teaching kids to gamble. This one is self-explanatory and pretty boring. And you start with 1,000 credits. Game 3 is Pika Dance. This one is probably the best one on the cart. It's already detailed. You can even choose your dancing song at the start. The dancing mechanics are that you press A with an arrow key when these things get to the buttons. So it's a DDR clone. They even have references on the scoreboard to DDR, which is pretty funny, and it shows that Yang Chen had a sense of humour. And now Game 4. The contents of this one may be way too epic for one's eyes. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Pac-Man. It's Pac-Man with Pikachu. Yep. That's lazy. So yeah, that's Pokemon 4 in 1. Some elements are very good, but others are either lazy or boring. Next we have a questionable NES ROM hack called Pokemon Golden, hacked by an unknown group. This one is a hack of Tom and Jerry. Yay! Why as a hacker would you choose such a bad game to base your hack on? And what on earth does Tom and Jerry have to do with Pokemon?
Precisely nothing.
Thank you, Michael. Like most ROM hacks, this one just changes the main sprites, nothing else. Instead of Jerry, you now play as a rather strangely shaped Eevee. All in all, this one is just another typical NES ROM hack. Reasonably interesting, but often boring and just odd. Now we're getting to the juicy stuff. Next we have Pokemon Adventure for Game Boy Color by Yong. Yes, the legends are back. As always, they're recycling games. This one is a hack of Sonic Adventure 7, and I never thought I'd say this, but I think this hack is actually an improvement. Yes, I said it. So, we start as Pikachu, of course, and immediately the running seems okay. They still have that annoying momentum mechanism, but you now actually feel like you have control of a Pikachu. The level design is poor though. They put this unkillable enemy right at the start, this grey slug. Yeah.
Now you can't kill the flipping enemies.
Well, you can kill these lobster things, but not the slugs. But still, the level design in the whole isn't actually that bad if you don't count the enemy layout. I do think they should have polished up the sprite a bit more. Pikachu can still do Sonic's spin dash. Come on, that's Sonic's move, not Pikachu's. Yong still haven't got that whole good music thing cracked yet. Yeah. Well, at least it isn't this. Ah! Stop. Okay, I'm better. There is some cheap difficulty though. These two slug thingies often get you blocked in this area here. Because of their patterns, it's super hard to continue on. but at the end of the day, this is somewhat of an improvement. So I suppose Yong are learning, but at a very, very, very slow pace. Next up today we have a Pokemon NES bootleg called Pocket Monster. Wow, so original. This one probably doesn't have any company relation to the DVS Electronics Pocket Monster series. This one was actually made by an unknown group, so let's see what it has to offer. Probably nothing amazing. So at the title screen we can see an unusually tubby Pikachu wearing what looks like Ash's cap? Well, let's just get on with level 1. The side-scrolling for the game is very much like Superboy. It moves in annoying and confusing jerks, which disorientate your vision. In fact, it's kind of nauseating when these jerks happen. Still objects also still start jiggling around. Like DVS Electronics Pocket Monsters, this one is also unforgivably difficult. There are no checkpoints, and you die in just 2 hits, so then it's back to the start to do the nauseating level again. The jumping mechanism is also sluggish. From a standstill, it takes several decades to gain any sort of momentum when you jump. The controls are also a bit weird. Button B is jump, which is strange since it's often button A which does the jumping, and B does things like attack. I suppose Bootleg Aladdin used B to jump, but at least everything else with that game was excellent. I'd also like to complain about the music. It isn't painful to the ears. In fact, the actual composition is fine, but it's about 40 seconds long, then it repeats over and over. Combine that with the horrendously long levels, it can drive you insane. Plus, when you lose your last life, the continue screen plays one glitched note non-stop. Like DVS's Pocket Monsters, I really can't see what these Pokemon are meant to be based off. There's this, and that. A boy as a Pokemon? Move along. In summary, Pocket Monster is not the best. Not the worst, but not the best as well. I suppose it could be fun in a way, but there is quite a bit of work needed. Next we have Pokemon Diamond and Jade for the Game Boy Color, developed and published by an unknown company. Both games are exactly the same, just different title screens and graphical changes. Nintendo are actually quite aware of this bootleg. Selling it on eBay is actually banned, but there are several ROM dumps of this game. So first of all, I'd like to draw attention to the weird voice sampling at the start. What? It sounds like they employed some very angry woman to scream nonsense at the top of her lungs. So when we go to press start, we then need to decide time. Wow, you want me to decide? So much power. This really isn't looking much like a Pokemon game. We've got this very odd menu and a telephone. Well, that's because this game is a hack of an odd Japanese telephone-orientated RPG called Kentai Denju Telefang, originally developed by Smilesoft and published by Natsume. Try and guess what the English translation of this is. Okay, I'll tell you. This literally translates to Mobile Phone Beast Telefang. Yes, this isn't a joke. So, when we start, you have to sit through a painfully long and unskippable intro. Oh my goodness, is it long. Honestly, it's about 7 minutes. Plus, it's in hilariously bad English, or English. This means I barely have a clue about what's happening. In fact, the only actual thing that this bootleg changes is the language of the text. Nothing else. No sprite moderations, nothing. They couldn't even do the translation right. The one thing this game changes, they mucked up. I think what's going down is that there's a special electric monster world that you can allegedly access through this tree. Then this girl called Beck hits a baseball at us. Then we're sent somewhere with this Pokemon here, which is called a Caribou. Honestly, that's all I picked up. The English is just crazy. Surprisingly, they are actually sort of Pokemon, or should I say, Denju battles, which I certainly did not expect with this being a hack. But then I found out that Keitai Denju Telefang is very like Pokemon anyway. During the battles, your Pokemon have a range of 2 to 4 attacks depending on their species. These are only changed if your Pokemon evolves. But the weirdest thing about this game is that when you defeat a Pokemon, or Denju, you receive their phone number? Yeah, and you can call them during battles to help you. Okay, I'm sorry Smilesoft, but why on earth would these wild critters have access to a phone? I'm leaving it here for this one. I am so deeply confused by this game I can no longer think properly. I would quite like to do a proper in-depth review of the original in future though. And finally, as always, we're ending with an awful one. You probably thought this would be that Pokemon Vietnamese Crystal, didn't you? Well no, it isn't. I found a very obscure bootleg Pokemon game which is in need of a bad review. Viewers, behold, Pokemon Crazy Drummer for the Sega Mega Drive, developed and published by a company called Tomsoft. One of the stupidest things about this game is that it has no relation to Pokemon whatsoever. All they did was slap a Pikachu face at parts and say, "Yep, this is a Pokemon game everybody, I want 10,000 copies made by tomorrow." This game is basically a very poor DDR clone. But I know what you may be thinking. Finizer, what could be so bad about a poorly made DDR clone? Well, I'm going to show you. So we start with a rather obnoxious title screen, then we go to select our music track. The first bad thing about this game occurs here. If you move the arrows up and down, you hear this awful noise. Every time. Why bother? It's so annoying. I can deal with it. Right, let's just go with practice mode and have a look at these track options. The track is dangerous apparently. Geez, does it want to be picked? Yeah, I get it, dude. You really want me to pick you. We've also got clap, reflect, relight, think you, and bicycle? What, the Queen song? Bicycle, bicycle, bicycle. Nah, such a good song would never make it into a game like this. Honestly, though some of the songs here are pretty decent, for a pirate at least, I think Relight is probably the best here. So let's start, and welcome to Mayhem. What is going on? So obviously the goal is to press the right buttons when these symbols get to this green line, but these sounds are nothing like drum kit sounds. This one sounds like some obnoxious monkey in pain. This one sounds like a rabbit foot tap. For some of the symbols, I don't even know what button activates them. Some of the button choices are so weird. For this one on the end, you use the left arrow key. There's also this weird and very poorly pre-rendered girl who has nothing to do with Pokemon or any Pokemon characters, which just flails her arms around everywhere while you're playing. It's actually a major distraction. Combine all these problems together and you don't get anything like music. Sonic 3D Blast 5 is better than this. Actually, nah, I think that's going too far. Although Tomsoft really mucked up the arrangements of these sounds. Just listen to this. It sounds like such a racket, mainly because the supposed drum sounds sound nothing like anything you'll find on a drum kit. I suppose you could say that it's just because I suck, but I have found absolutely no videos on YouTube of anyone doing well at this game. I think it shows that this game is close to being unplayable. So throughout this entire song, I've just been mashing the heck out of all the buttons until the end, but I still won apparently! Yay! Actually, in the practice mode, you can't lose. If you want any sort of challenge, you have to play in the arcade mode. But the arcade mode is virtually impossible if you're not some Mega Drive veteran, since it stops you if you get too many wrong. Plus, you can only have one song at the start, which is dangerous. Guess what? You have to unlock the rest of them. What? I can't do that, I'm lazy. So this game is very, very poor. The incredibly unrealistic drum sounds in game, combined with there being absolutely no sense of timing with the original track, means that this DDR clone is like no other. There probably is far worse Pokemon bootlegs out there, but I think this is the worst one I've ever played. So all in all, this game has no relevance to Pokemon, no sense of timing with music, and the drumming gameplay makes absolutely nothing worthy of the term music. So really, for your own good, I would never try to hunt down a copy of Pokemon Crazy Drummer. Hello everyone, Finizer here. Thank you all very, very much again for watching the newest Mascots Bootleg episode. Longest one yet. This episode, gosh, about almost half an hour. So yeah, did a lot of bootlegs, a lot of editing. It took me ages to do this one. Started getting pretty boring to the end, but we did it. And first of all, I'd like to make a shout out to Scott B. Did a really excellent job on making my new intro. That was the one we saw at the start. Really excellent, much better than I could do. So I'm really glad he asked if he could do that. Yeah, he sent it back to me within hours, and it was really good. So click on the annotation on the screen right now to go to his channel, or click on the link in the description. And second of all, I apologise if I sounded a bit nasal in some recordings that I did, like between the mid, like the Pokemon 4-in-1 and the Pokemon 2 3D Pac-Man clone. Yeah, I apologise, I had a bit of a cold when I was recording a few of these. What else? There was something else. Next Mascots Bootlegged is Bootleg Pac-Man Games. Is there anything else? Oh yes, thank you all very much for helping me reach 100 subs. Crikey, can't believe I forgot that. It was flipping it. I haven't even got the 50 subs Q&A out, and then I get 100 subs. It's crazy. So I'm sorry I haven't really announced that much, but I'm going to be getting a 100 subs, special video out, and I'll do a montage of all your names again like I did with 50 subs. If you don't want your name to be shown in the video, then message me down below. So yes, thank you all so much. I've got a pretty exciting 100 subs special video in mind. I'm not going to tell anyone, but I think it's going to be a top 10 list. That's all I'll give away. So thank you all once again for watching Bootleg Pokemon Games. Click on the screen to see last week's, month's actually, episode. And this is Finizer. Goodbye. Hello everyone, Finizer here, back for another Mascots Bootlegged. Today, in episode 6, we will be doing a suggestion from the Raging Demon, Jesse, Luigi2600 and Sebastian. They have all suggested doing bootlegs from the incredibly popular arcade fighting game series, Street Fighter. And today's episode should be a long one, since there is a vast amount of Street Fighter bootlegs. So sit back, relax and enjoy this episode of Mascots Bootlegged. Next up, we have a game for the Famicom called Street Fighter II: The World Warrior, developed by the people over at Hummer Team and published in 1992 by an obscure Chinese bootleg company called Yokosoft, which is often believed to be Hummer Team themselves. This game is basically a watered-down remake of the SNES and arcade original, but as always, Hummer Team managed to pull off a decent bootleg yet again. We start with an awesome 8-bit rendition of the Street Fighter theme, which is almost perfect. By pressing start, we transition to a character select, where you can choose between some rather horrific characters. Ouch! Jeez, guys, have you eaten some radioactive waste? You do not look too good. Unlike in the original, in this bootleg you can only pick between 4 characters, instead of the original 8. So, onto the actual gameplay. The game looks, plays and sounds very similar to Kart Fighter. Many of the graphics, including the health bar, are the same, as well as many of the punching and kicking sounds. This is because they both run on Hummer's SF2 engine, which was used for many of their fighting games. This game was the very first game to use the SF2 engine, and so Kart Fighter was in fact built off this game. Like Kart Fighter, every character has their own set of free moves, except from Zangief, who has a move missing. I'd recommend using Chun-Li, as she has this epic upside-down spinny kick of death, which is really great for dominating. The game's AI is actually incredibly well done, and actually pretty challenging. It's one of the very few bootlegs I've played where you can't just button mash in order to win. Yeah, good job, Hummer. In fact, saying that, all AI is excellent, apart from freaking Chun-Li. From the moment the fight starts, she whacks you into the corner of the screen and then just combo spams you until you perish. The game is also pretty hard, as you only have one continue to complete the entire game. All in all, this is a very well made fighting pirate by Hummer and Yoko, which puts Kart Fighter to shame. Well done yet again, Hummer Team. Next up. Second up, we have another game from Hummer Team. This is Street Fighter 0297, made in 1997 by Hummer Team and published by NT, who is a company that we have looked at before, who are well known for pirating games created by other pirates. Pirateception! This game is also made with the SF2 engine, just like Kart Fighter and the game we just looked at. There is in fact a hacked version of this game called Street Fighter 02, which was released in later years by NT. Both are almost exactly the same, with a few subtle differences, which we will get to now. So, in the original Street Fighter 2097, a reasonably good quality intro is played with some nice animation when the game is booted up. However, in the hacked Street Fighter 02, the game starts immediately from the title screen. Then we get to the character selection. Both of these games commit the common bootleg fighting game sin of character duplicates. Man, this stuff gets me so annoyed. If you don't know, character duplicating is a common thing in many bootleg fighting games. This act involves recoloring and retexturing an existing sprite to create a somewhat new character, to create the illusion that there is more choice than what there actually is. I personally find it to be a complete and utter scam, which can ruin a game. To be fair, Street Fighter 0297 has a smaller amount of duplicates. However, Street Fighter 02 removes some of the original characters and replaces them with more duplicates. Why? Because logic, mate. Onto the gameplay. Due to this also being built on the SF2 engine, it too is both graphically and mechanically like Kart Fighter. The game has reasonably good difficulty, although many of the computer characters spam their special moves quite a bit. Each character has their own supercharge move, which can be triggered by pressing A and B together. However, there is one huge flaw with this special move. It's impossible not to button mash, since you can perform them as much as you want. You can beat the whole game by just pushing your opponents into a corner and let the button mashing commence. There are some really nice level touches as well. Like here, in the background there's a cheering crowd. Pretty cool. The sprites in the game are hideously poor though. Every single sprite has the same poor skin textures, and most of them look nothing like what they're supposed to, especially Chun-Li. She looks like a ripped man with a six-pack and bulky muscles. And is she wearing green leggings? Plus, due to most of the sprites looking similar, it means that it's hard to keep track of who's who when fighting, which is annoying. All in all, Street Fighter 0297 feels like a rushed project. Nowhere near as much work was put into it in Street Fighter 2 The World Warrior. I suppose it can be fun, but only for a short time. Next. Okay, so next up we have an oddly interesting one. This is Street Fighter 3 18-person for the Sega Mega Drive, published by GlorySun. This pirate is a hack of the Street Fighter Turbo 2 beta. The difference between this and the original is that it adds 6 more additional duplicate characters to the roster, hence the name 18-person. These 6 new characters are Street Fighter characters that were added in later games, so it's cool to see a 16-bit form of them. Still, that's some pretty bad grammar, GlorySun. 18-person? I think you need to go back to basics. The extra characters, although at the end of the day are just duplicates, GlorySun did put some effort into designing them. Instead of just being straight up recolors, they are in fact palette swaps of existing characters with different appearances. Here are the 6 new characters. There's Cammy, who's a palette swap of Chun-Li, Fei Long, who's a palette swap of Bison, Takuma, who's a palette swap of Ryu, DJ, who's a palette swap of Boxer, and T-Hawk, who's a palette swap of E-Honda. And last, and probably the least, who's a palette swap of Ken. These new characters also use some artwork from the King of Fighters 98 bootleg by X-Boy. Apart from the new characters and the altering of the title screen to read Street Fighter 3 18-person, there's no other changes. I must say though, GlorySun did a fantastic job of making these new characters seem official. Each one have their own sprite, picture and name on the title screen, and their name is shown when being fought. Still, when looking at the big picture, this hack is quirky, charming, but pointless. Still, it has something which makes me rather like it. I'd recommend checking it out just for the fresh experience of these new characters. Next up we have a strange arcade bootleg called Street Fighter 2 Rainbow Edition, made by an unknown company in 1993. This bootleg is in fact a hack of the incredibly successful Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition, originally made by Capcom of course. Now, this game is very appropriately named, as a name like that means it's bound to be filled with rainbows. Actually, no, that's a lie. This game includes absolutely no gameplay or even gameplay essences of rainbows. It's just complete tat. The only thing which has the slightest relation to rainbows in this game is that the letters on the title screen spelling Street Fighter 2 are coloured in a rainbow-like fashion. The pirates were so lazy that they couldn't even be bothered to remove the champion from the title screen. And so, yes, this is like so many other pirate hacks. It changes the title screen to something different and claims it's a whole new game somehow. However, there are a few gameplay alterations in this one, which gives it some extra points. One is that you are now able to pull off special moves during mid-air, which is in my opinion an improvement. Hadoukens now also travel a lot faster, plus a total of 9 characters can now do a Hadoukens instead of just Ryu and Ken. But by far what's the weirdest and the creepiest alteration between this and the original is that the game's AI have the ability to transform into other characters while fighting. I'm not joking. 1 minute they're playing as one character, and then BAM! There's someone else. I get seriously disturbed by this ability. Really, really disturbed. At the end of the day though, this arcade hack is pretty cool. I am fond of the alterations it provides, and I think any Street Fighter fan would enjoy this too. Next up, we have a bootleg called Street Fighter 4 for the Famicom. This bootleg is yet again developed by the people over at Hummer Team and published by a bootleg game company called Gouda. Gouda Co. is a little-known bootleg game company. We only have evidence of them publishing one game, which is this, before fading into obscurity. So, let's take a look. Of course, like all Hummers of games, this uses the goddamn SF2 engine. Really, Hummer? It would be nice to have a small break now and again from the SF2 engine. But anyway, let's just begin with the title screen. The title screen has some pretty cool artwork, with this piece of writing which I assume is the game's name in Chinese. I particularly like the animated flames at the bottom of the text. Plus, Gouda also actually had the guts to show their name on the title screen, and when the game was made, I give props to any pirate that does this. It shows that they are not feeble and afraid. Unlike most games which use Hummer's Street Fighter 2 engine, you can now choose to have 2 players and what difficulty you want to play with from the title screen. Now onto the character selection. Now this is where it gets interesting. As you can see, there is a total of 10 characters to choose from. Really, there's only 5 though, since each one has a duplicate twin, which looks slightly different and has a different name. But as you can see, none of these characters are bootleg versions of official Street Fighter characters, and all look original and have their own original names. And so, this is practically its own original game. Hummer Team probably just slapped the Street Fighter 4 writing on the title screen to attract an audience and make it sell better. Now, onto the gameplay. Many of this game's mechanics are similar to Hummer's Street Fighter 2 The World Warrior, and are slightly improved. The music's really well done. It all seems to be original and shows off that wonderfully distinct Hummer sound engine. Every stage's track is equally good. A lot of the stage's backgrounds have really detailed animation, like Starlong and Rambu's stage. Just look at this amazing cloud animation. Pretty high quality. Look! Look at it! That cloud animation. And then there's 2 spectators on Chun-Fu and Moon stage. I'm not entirely sure what's happening here. I'm going to leave it here. As always, each set of twin character have 3 special moves, some reused from multiple character twins. What's quite good is that there's no real overall superior character here in this game. They all seem to be evenly matched. However, my favourite twin duplicate to play with is Tracy and Bunny, since these twins can do super cool backflip moves. Although all characters in the game are graphically original, some seem to have special move connections to official Street Fighter characters. For example, these 2 twin duplicates, Pastor and Robo, have similar style moves to Ken from Capcom's official Street Fighter. All in all, this is an excellent, possibly the best of Hummer Team's fighting games. I strongly recommend you check this one out. You won't regret it. Second to last today, we have our only SNES bootleg for the day. Next up is X-Men vs Street Fighter for the SNES, made in 1998 by an unknown company, and could have possibly been published by DVS Electronics, the same people who made those mediocre bootleg Pokemon platformers which we looked at last episode in Bootleg Pokemon Games. What's quite interesting is that a numerous amount of new pirate copies of this game, made by an unknown manufacturer, have been noted wandering the pirate market recently. There is also a title screen hack of this game called Marvel Superheroes vs Street Fighter. So, let's take a look at this bootleg. The game begins with a small animated title screen with some pretty cool funky music playing. As the name states, this is a fighting game involving both Street Fighter and X-Men characters. From Street Fighter, it includes Ryu, Ken, Nash and Chun-Li. From X-Men, it includes Wolverine, Iceman, Psylocke and Cyclops. Gameplay is incredibly sluggish. I mean, just look at it. It looks like it's running at 5 FPS, which is probably true. It takes so long for your character to simply walk across the screen. Combine that with a big amount of input lag that is generated each time you press any button on the controller. That's particularly bad for a fighting game, when quick reflexes are key. I've also found special moves to be very hard to pull off, which is also a big flaw. The hitboxes are also badly done too. To successfully land a punch or kick, you need to be virtually walking into your opponent, risking your health. All the sprites seem decent, and look like their official counterparts. Apart from Ryu, who looks a bit like a woman, they're all a proportionate size, apart from Wolverine, who looks freaking tiny. He looks like a hobbit.
It's wonderful to see you, Gandalf.
All in all, though, this game is pretty poor. There are many flaws within the game which make it borderline unplayable at times. The only reason I could see people wanting to play this is that it's Street Fighter collaborating with X-Men. However, there was an official Street Fighter vs X-Men game for PlayStation, which was also released in 1998, which contains many more characters and plays better, and so it is likely this bootleg is based off that game. In my opinion, I just stick with the PS1 version. So, we've almost come to the end of the video, and in my opinion, this Mascots Bootleg has been pretty positive. We've had a few games worse than others, but on a whole there hasn't been any terribly bad games. Until now! Mwahaha, yes! As always, we're ending with an utterly despicable game. Today's despicable game was developed and published by Konisoft, who is in fact Yokosoft under a different alias. We've seen some of Koni's work previously today, as they were the people who published Hummer's Street Fighter II, The World Warrior. However, Koni are known to be copycat bootleggers, often copying other bootleg companies' game ideas. Most of the time they do this horrifically badly, shown with this game. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Street Fidgeter 2 Pro. What? Fidgeter. Oh, right, poor spelling error. So, yes, here is Street Fighter 2 Pro misspelled Street Fidgeter on the title screen. Be warned, that spelling mistake is the first of many which are included in this game. So, we begin with a typical Street Fighter title screen, with a pretty horrifying 8-bit cover of the Street Fighter theme playing. Sounds dry, doesn't it? We then move on to an equally odd character selection, where all characters have been smothered in liquid gold. Plus, these character pictures are really off, especially Ken, who looks particularly hideous. That hair. So, in total there are 8 characters to play as. These 8 are all common in other pirate fighting games too. However, my favourite out of these 3 is Zangief, because yet again it's a funny spelling error. When selecting your character, you go into your first fight. Just before though, you get this weird profile showcase of you and your opponent. I've got nothing against this, but when it includes such weird things like the character's blood type, I wondered why they bothered. Now, onto some gameplay. All moves and controls are annoyingly stiff. Input lag is always produced when moving or playing, which can be very frustrating. Each character has their own unique set of moves, like in most fighting games. However, it's not very fair, since characters like Ryu and Ken have 5 moves, when others like Blanka only have 2. This can cause some serious biases when playing. The music for many of the stages is pretty rubbish too. For example, here's Gar's theme. The main melody sounds okay, but the bass line is very dry and brittle. That annoying crunch sound it has also gets really, really annoying. But what is by far the absolute worst flaw of this game, the epitome of all its imperfections, the super spammy AI. Quite literally, as soon as I spawn into a match, the AI kicks me into a corner and spams special moves on me until I die. What's really blood-boiling is that I can't do anything about it, since once one special move has hit me, I don't have enough time to get up and fight back, due to the fact that another move hits me soon after. There's no way to stop this also, since there's no difficulty option. And because of this poorly programmed AI, the game can be near impossible at times. For me at least. I finally want to fight. What? Ha ha. Very easy congratulation?
What?
Why? Why does this have to be? Oh, and by the way, at this winning screen, no matter what character you play as, the name above the character picture is always Victor! Victor! This Victor dude isn't even a playable character either. Oh, goodness me. So, all in all, this is a truly awful Street Fighter bootleg by Koni. Virtually all gameplay aspects are negative. but those hilarious grammar errors does make this game quite an irresistibly good laugh. I strongly recommend you try this out for yourself, just for those mistakes. Oh, and plus, you want to know the ending credits? A guy called Victor Chen worked on this game. I guess he wanted to be a video game fighting character so bad that he named every character in his game after him. Also, the testing for the game was done by Fat Cat, which makes everything better. So, that's about it for episode 6 of Mascots Bootlegged. As always, thanks for watching. All the ROMs of Bootleg Games seen in this episode will be in the description, and I'll see you next time. Hello everyone, Finizer here once again, and I'd just like to say thank you all again so much for watching Mascots Bootlegged. I've said this countless times before, but thank you all again for watching the next episode. First I'd like to apologise, I really should have got this out earlier. That's mainly because this was going to be a collab with my friend Swiftburn, but he decided to pull out at the end, which I understand. So that's why, it's taken slightly longer. Not just that, I've also been quite busy, as normal. But yeah, other than that, just thanks a lot again for watching this episode. I'm going to put all the songs in the description, as always. There's 2 annotations on the screen right now. One to go and watch Bootleg Pokemon Games, which is last week's episode, and one to go and watch the last FinizerGaming show episode, which was my 100 sub special actually, when I talk about the top 10 best songs on the Nintendo Entertainment System. So yes, do watch them if you have the time. And yeah, I'm just waffling on now, but thank you for being patient, to be honest. Yeah, just you guys are really great. I'm growing in subs so much. Just a few weeks ago I had 1,000 and now I have 1.5k. It's just crazy how fast growing my channel is, and that's I really do owe you one. That's really good. It's really helps me that you subscribe and you're patient. I really should have got this out earlier. So yeah, once again, thank you, and that's it. Tune in next time. Hello everyone, Finizer here, yet again back for episode 7 of Mascots Bootlegged, and today we'll be looking at bootleg games for the Legend of Zelda Games series. This has been a very highly requested suggestion. In fact, there were too many suggestions to name. But before we start this episode, I want to get out a little secret which I've been holding back from you guys ever since the start. Before making this episode, I had never played a Zelda game. Yes, although it may be hard to believe, it's true. However, before making this episode, I decided to buy Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past on Wii U Virtual Console and start playing. I also played Link's Awakening for the Game Boy, which I really enjoyed, and I've also been playing some other Zelda games too. And
it's pretty good.
The Zelda games are an excellent line of action-adventure RPGs which provide some great entertainment. Bar a few, of course.
How about a kiss for luck?
You've got to be kidding.
But anyway, enough of that, let's get into it. Oh, and one more thing. Zelda bootlegs have been proven very hard to find, and it's thanks to all of you awesome guys, these people in particular, that this episode is possible, due to the immense help these people gave me when I was trying to find Bootleg Zelda Games ROMs. Even though I received a lot of help, there is a limit of bootleg games in this episode. However, I have planned a unique twist to compensate for that, which you will see later in the video. So, let's get started. First up, we have a very interesting bootleg Zelda remake for the Famicom called Zelda Triforce of the Gods, which is actually a backport of Zelda: A Link to the Past for SNES. Developed and released at an unknown time by Fuzhou Weixing Computer Science and Technology Co. Ltd, or Weixing for short. Weixing is a pirate game-making company based in Fuzhou, China. Weixing's site is actually still in use to this day. However, it's very poorly put together and barely has any actual material on it. I translated their homepage using Google Translate, and it appears that they're offering some sort of free download for their latest software, but it never really explains what the software can be used for. Anyway, let's get into this demake. So, from booting up, we start with a static of Wakesing's logo, and upon pressing start, we then begin with some pretty well put together pixelated pictures, which are obviously meant to emulate the ones that are shown when you first start the original game. The game does very well at emulating these, and comes pretty close to the authenticity of the original. In fact, I'd go as far to say that they're pretty damn exceptional. There's even text to accompany the pictures too, but it's all in Chinese, so I can only hope this is a translation of the original text, as it could be anything for all I know. Plus, as well as this, we get some seriously amazing music to accompany it, which is also completely original, might I add. Just listen. It's so rare to find music of this quality in a pirated game. After this intro, we are then greeted by a very accurate title screen too. Even the sword is here. Also, this game supposedly even has a save system. However, I can't actually test it out, since I am playing this game on an emulator. But even so many good things have been given to us from just the intro of this game. So, let's actually play this thing. So we start with some more foreign dialogue from our uncle, who then proceeds to leave the house just like in the original Link to the Past. Again, some very good imitation of the original. So let's leave the house, I guess. Oh, more foreign dialogue. Really? In fact, the untranslated dialogue is probably the biggest problem with this game. Just like in the original, dialogue is everywhere. So it's impossible to actually keep up with the story if you don't speak the language that text is in. One of the most significant differences between this and the original is that the enemies are quite literally shoved into your pixelated face as soon as you start. Although you do not possess a sword until you find your uncle in the underground dungeons where Princess Zelda is being held captive, the map art is spot on. It emulates the original map's design almost to a T. Well, to a T by NES game standards. The whole graphical image of the game is so good that it really does feel like a Zelda game while playing. Link's sprite is brilliant, the sprites of the enemies are brilliant, and the whole world. The dungeons, the rooms, the outside overworld, it's all really great. Also, remember that excellent music from the game's intro? That and many other great, completely original tracks can also be found in-game, in a particular set order that changes each time you move on to a different screen. The combat's alright, good enough. There's no sound effects while in battle with an enemy, and there's no sort of animation from the sprites either. However, it definitely works. Of course, even though this is a great port of the original game, there are a few setbacks from the original. These obviously occurred due to the fact that the NES is considerably less advanced than its successor. One of the most noticeable setbacks is this thing with the combat, which is whenever you hit an enemy, the in-game time freezes for a split second, unlike the original when in-game time flows more smoothly. This setback ultimately makes combat much less of a challenge, as you don't get surrounded by multiple enemies at once. Also, instead of soldiers occupying the dungeons, there's now bugs and jellyfish keeping watch. Also, when you have Zelda following you, if you strike your sword, she seems to have mastered the grand art of invisibility. Seriously, she just flipping disappears when you use a weapon. So, all in all, this is a pretty amazing backport of A Link to the Past to NES by Wakesing. Sure, it definitely isn't unflawed, but the sheer graphical accuracy to the original is enough to praise this game massively in my opinion, along with all the other things it does right. Great job, Wakesing. Next up is another game for the Famicom/NES by a Chinese bootleg game company based in Shenzhen called Shenzhen Nanjing Technology, or just Nanjing for short. Nanjing was founded in 2002 and are still active in the present day. Just like Wakesing, they also have a working website. Well, I say working, it's incredibly primitive. I find it extremely hard to access,
and when I finally did, I was simply greeted with a yellow screen, which didn't seem to have any content on it. Throughout their time in the pirate game industry, Nanjing has managed to publish a staggering 102 pirated Famicom games. And those are just the confirmed ones which contain an ID number. It is believed that there are at least 10 other games that Nanjing have made also for the Famicom. So yeah, Nanjing are pretty active. Today, however, we will be looking at published by Nanjing and developed by Nicecode. This bootleg is yet another D-make. This time it's a back port of Link's Awakening for the Game Boy. So, let's take a look. So, from starting up the game, you're first greeted with a not half bad title screen depicting some blue dude, most likely Link, on an island holding a sword. His face is quite funny, however. This is accompanied by an 8-bit rendition of the Zelda theme song, which seems to be made from scratch, as it sounds very different from the actual theme. So after this, a static picture with some foreign writing appears, which vaguely emulates the opening cutscene from Link's Awakening. Once again, there doesn't seem to be any ROM hack which translates the original text, so I'm going to try to ignore it for now. Alright, let's get into the gameplay. Actually, one first thing I should most definitely mention is that unlike the first Zelda bootleg we looked at, this bootleg barely mimics the original Zelda game which it's a backport of. The start of this game is in no way, shape or form similar to the original's Link Awakening. You don't go to find your sword. In fact, as far as I know, Torombo Shores doesn't even exist. So, when you first wake up, you start in this very town here. For some reason, although this town is perfectly peaceful and relaxed with approximately 0 enemies, the developers decided to play the most dramatic music ever. Just listen. What is this? Who thought this was needed? It's so out of place it's funny. Oh yeah, and it's pretty damn awful too. Plus, it loops. Brilliant. And it's pretty much the only song in the game. Also, the AI in this game is so passive and so dumb. First of all, every single human in the game has the same walking pattern. Walk forward for a bit, then walk back, then turn a different way, and repeat. You can quite literally stand in the way of their path, and they will simply grind to a halt. Hi. There are some seriously awful design problems with the overworld. Bushes and fences can often be found right in the way when you try to walk to the next screen. When this occurs, a long pause is simply held for about 3 seconds before the game then chucks Link back where he came from. This flaw is incredibly annoying as it slows down the flow of everything, and it could be easily resolved with some actual quality control. Another big inaccuracy to the original is that your sword can't cut down grass. In fact, you can just walk through it. Why? So after you talk to this old man here, you're then able to access what seems to be the game's imitation of the mysterious forest through this square. Finally, enemies. The combat in this bootleg is very challenging, I'll give them that. Definitely better than the previous bootleg Zelda game we looked at. It's fast-paced, and it works. However, at times the enemies do move incredibly fast, perhaps too fast, particularly these damn witches. These guys shoot out fire beams and teleport around like crazy too. The controls are not exactly perfect either. They're mostly fine, but I do sense a small bit of input lag when in movement. I imagine that these enemy sprites were ripped from somewhere also, since they all look like they just don't belong together. Just look, a bat in broad daylight, and plus, due to the challenging combat and the fact that pretty hard to kill enemies are practically littered on the screen, and that there's no continues, you die a lot, and have to start all over from the beginning of the game. What? You didn't even let me, oh my god! And, to make matters even worse, we've still got this ungodly music which loops, and 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 loops.
I'm your host, Killer Keemstar. Let's get right into the news!
So in summary,
动态的图案少 style 但原度
is very, very flawed. It's nowhere near the worst bootleg game ever, but there's barely any positives to the game at all. Nanjing needs to do a lot more work on this one, particularly that awful music. Next up is a very peculiar Zelda bootleg on the Game Boy Advance. Unlike the other two bootleg games we've looked at today, this bootleg is not a deepmake or backport of any official Zelda game. This game is one of 16 games found on a plug-and-play console which works with the Game Boy Advance, called the Jungle Tak 16-in-1 by Chinese bootleg game company Jungle Tak. Jungle Tak was founded in 1999 and is yet another company to still be working in the present day. Over their years, they have worked with Nanjing, Wixing and Nicecode. Anyway, they're most well known for making these plug-and-play consoles. You know the type, the ones that you don't actually have any cartridges for, you just plug them in and get a certain amount of original games, but most of them are just basic clones of popular arcade classics. They often rip assets from other games without their permission too. So, this Jungle Tak Zelda bootleg is called Hero Legend. Yeah, it looks pretty weird, doesn't it? Although this game doesn't actually specify anywhere that it's meant to be a Zelda game, it has been confirmed that this is a bootleg due to the fact that the asset for the main character that you play as is in fact a stolen Link sprite. I'm actually really happy that this is a bootleg, since as you can probably tell, I'm really scraping the bottom of the barrel for Bootleg Zelda Games. The game is really nothing special, just a clone of one of those classic 2D arcade minigames. In the game, you control Link, who has a big hammer, and you basically press the A button to knock out any enemies walking on the screen. Once they have been knocked out, you then get a small window to press the B button, which sends them flying off the screen, as well as dropping an item. It's very reminiscent of Bubble Bobble. There's really nothing that stands out in this one. It's not that bad at all. Enemies get more challenging after each stage, the controls are pretty much fine, however it's very unoriginal and uninspired. The idea for this kind of game has been milked beyond recognition. I've actually started to forget that flipping Link is in this game, goodness. Very bizarre. So that's pretty much all this bootleg has to offer. It's not bad, and it's not good. So in my opinion, it's simply
boring.
Well, we've come to the final segment of this episode. However, unlike previous episodes of this show, where we look at a shockingly awful bootleg game at the end of the video, for this episode, as I said at the start, I'm doing a bit of an ending twist today, as Zelda bootlegs have been extremely hard to find, and so, to compensate for this, we will be looking at examples of another type of bootleg item, bootleg merchandise. Turns out that there's actually a big load of unauthorized Zelda merch floating around the interwebs. Some of it is actually being actively sold online. Anyway, I've collected a few pictures of my personal favourite bootleg Zelda merch. Before we start, I'd just like to say a big thank you to xDarnokX for his videos showcasing these plushes that I'm going to look at today. He will be credited in the video. I'll also leave a link to his channel in the description. Let's do this! Okay, so first up we have this peculiar item, which is a bootleg plush of Link. Although I'm actually not entirely sure that this is a bootleg, one thing's for sure, if it turns out that it isn't, Nintendo really need to rethink which toy companies they should license their brand names out to. It seems to be very shoddily put together, and it lacks any sort of proper attention to detail. The whole thing looks incredibly bland, not to mention that Link very much looks like he is in great pain. Still, this is nothing compared to what I have lined up. So now we're really getting into the comical bootlegs, with this little bootleg Link gem here. I really do think that the pathetic stub, which is somewhat passing as a nose here, is really the cherry on top for this bootleg plush. Not to mention the strange anime-like eyes, and the awful hair. All it is are bits of fabric poorly stuck onto the head. I wouldn't be surprised that this was assembled by a child. No, really, I wouldn't be surprised. This is a Chinese bootleg after all. It's very possible that child labour was involved. Just saying. Here's yet another bootleg Wind Waker Link plush, although the bootleggers did in fact mislabel this plush with a 4 swords tag. This plush is made by the same pirate company that made the previous plush. I do think that this one looks considerably better. However, it does look like the attention to detail gradually declines in quality as you descend down the plush. As you can see, looks pretty reasonable around the head and torso, but then we can see that there's little to nothing in the lower areas. Alright, so last, and I'd say definitely least, we have this pretty abnormal third-party plush of, I believe, Wind Waker Link. This is actually currently being sold on Amazon for $25. Jeez. Unlike many of the others that we've seen today, this one actually does look pretty well made, and could probably pass as an official Link Legend of Zelda toy, if it wasn't for some of these horrific features here. To start, his eyelids are rather strange, plus they haven't really mastered the colouring of Link's cheeks. It kinda looks like someone scraped Link's skin with a fountain pen, and that red is actually blood, painfully oozing from his fresh wounds. Well, that's pretty much it. This collection of bootleg Link plushes really are quite something, and by something I mean absolutely terrible. So yeah, I really was surprised by the lack of availability of these Zelda bootlegs, so I hope this little unorthodox twist with the bootleg plushes served as a good enough replacement for the final segment. As always, thanks so much for watching, and I do apologise for how long this has taken. Anyway, goodbye.